Some young, enthusiastic hikers hit the Eagle Creek Trail with big plans that were supposed to change their lives forever, but they never made it back. For almost 2 weeks, people searched day and night with zero results, until a shocking discovery lit up everyone's hopes again. A hidden trail camera snapped a photo that was impossible to ignore. What did that picture reveal about the missing couple's fate? From that moment on, the quiet branches and mossy trails stopped being just a peaceful sight. They became silent witnesses to a disturbing truth that only a handful of folks were willing to accept. On the morning of September 22, 2022, the Sandy River murmured with a certain dark omen. The cold, damp fall weather wrapped the Mount Hood region in Oregon with a lingering fog. The forest stretched out its towering conifers, and the breeze carried a wet pine scent. From higher ground, you could see the treetops forming a massive green blanket over the rugged terrain. But despite that calm facade, something sinister was lurking. A young married couple, Lucy and Sam Carter, had vanished days ago without a trace. Local authorities put together search and rescue patrols, but the dense woods and lack of solid leads turned those first hours into a real puzzle. Nobody understood how two experienced hikers, totally in love with the outdoors, could just vanish from a fairly popular trail. As days passed, worry turned into dread. Amid this swirling uncertainty, a lone, determined figure came into view. Tyler Carter, Sam's older brother, was crossing the highway that linked the small town of Sandy to the entrance of Mount Hood National Park. Whenever a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, it reflected off the old military watch on Tyler's wrist, a gift from his missing brother. A former serviceman, Tyler carried a backpack of supplies and a small notebook. Beneath his strict demeanor and disciplined air, he was clearly on edge. Nobody knew better than he did how strong Sam was, or how tight he and Lucy were. Tyler refused to believe they'd had some random accident without leaving any clue whatsoever. He felt a pang in his chest, remembering the last phone call with Sam, his brother's laughter, and the mention of some amazing project he planned to surprise Lucy with. The call had been so short that Tyler, used to living a tough, solitary life, barely paid attention to the details. Now he couldn't stop blaming himself for not asking more questions, for not showing up sooner. And so, the previous night, while the cops were running out of leads, Tyler made a silent vow. He wouldn't stop until he found his brother and Lucy. With that promise in mind, he started his journey. The town of Sandy was thick with that same sense of unease hanging over the entire area. People there all knew each other, and rumors of a missing young couple had rocked the sleepy routine. Tyler stopped at a local coffee shop where the smell of fresh brew mixed with cinnamon pastries, trying in vain to ease the tension. Some locals recognized him by his resemblance to Sam. They greeted him with compassionate smiles, offering to help. He jotted down names, possible contacts, and any rumor that might lead him to a real clue. He learned that authorities had combed various trails, but the lack of any sign was downright maddening. Lucy and Sam had solid outdoor skills, knew what gear to pack, and had a strong sense of direction. So if they had a minor mishap, why couldn't they just make their way out on their own? Morning turned to a cloudy, rain-threatening afternoon. Tyler drove to the Eagle Creek Trail, the very place the couple had set off from. The wooden sign with the trail's name was weathered, but still legible. A few volunteers were finishing up search crews for the day. When Tyler arrived, an officer asked him to keep his distance and leave it to the pros. But once he saw Tyler's unbreakable resolve and that steely look in his eyes, the officer allowed him at least to share questions and theories. "I've got a feeling this isn't just a normal accident," Tyler said as he surveyed the trees that began where the dirt path ended. The thick brush seemed to vanish into the dim light. "Statistics aren't exactly on our side. It's been days. We've checked nearby paths, and we haven't even found a single shoe," the officer replied with a hint of resignation. "They're still alive," Tyler insisted. "There must be some clue we're overlooking. I want to check the riverbank. I'm trained for rough terrain, so please just don't stop me." Seeing Tyler's fierce determination, the officer relented and suggested he take a walkie-talkie to report anything he might find. Tyler adjusted his backpack straps, took a deep breath, and gazed at the forest. The chill in the air brushed against his face like a warning. Gripping his military watch, a constant reminder of his promise, he forged ahead. He spent most of the afternoon checking fallen logs, digging through mud near the sandy river, and examining any possible footprints. Eagles soared overhead, and the rushing water gave him a distinct chill that went beyond the cold temperature. As the sun slipped behind the mountains, the wind picked up, bringing a smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. Nothing concrete turned up. Still, a flicker of hope or plain stubbornness pushed him forward. While crossing a rocky section, Tyler's mind drifted to childhood memories with Sam. Two brothers running around a park, tossing a baseball, laughing their heads off. He remembered Sam's excitement introducing him to Lucy, that shy smile of hers and a camera slung around her neck. "She's incredible. She wants to make a photo album of all our favorite places," Sam had said. Tyler, still reeling from his tough military past and the loss of fellow soldiers, hadn't paid much attention to his brother's dream. Now, looking back, every image felt like gold. He also recalled Lucy saying she dreamt of opening a photography studio in Portland, hoping to capture Oregon's beauty alongside the region's wildlife around Mount Hood. Sam was all in, even suggesting they collaborate on some eco-friendly architecture project for the building. Everything about their future was so bright. How did any of that match this nightmare with no trace of them? All of a sudden, Tyler felt a sharp pain in his left hand. He'd slammed it against a jagged rock, lost in his thoughts. It started bleeding, a bit. Kneeling down, he cleaned it with his canteen water and bandaged it quickly. It reminded him just how brutal the situation was. No time to daydream if he was serious about finding them. Still, that night, as he headed back to town empty-handed, images of Sam and Lucy danced in his mind like ghosts, beckoning him to keep searching. 5 days since the couple's disappearance. Frustration was growing in the local community. The police had no firm evidence of foul play, but they hadn't ruled it out either. Tyler saw how drained the officers were getting. Refusing to give up, he pored over old maps and asked rangers about less explored areas. One morning, before sunrise, he headed to the historic Troutdale Bridge, a wooden structure spanning a canyon, not far from the Sandy River. A ranger had mentioned that if the river current carried any objects from the Eagle Creek Trail, they could surface near that spot. A shiver ran down his spine as he stepped onto the creaking boards of the bridge. The wood smelled of mold and dampness. Peering over the railing, he watched the violent waters roar below. A gust of wind whipped through the structure's gaps, whistling in warning. Scanning the shoreline, Tyler saw a patch of disturbed earth near a fallen log. Carefully climbing down the muddy slope, he spotted a piece of fabric sticking out from the loose dirt. Pulling it free, he found a mud-caked backpack. His heart pounded, like crazy. He instantly recognized the blue backpack covered in travel patches with a small tag reading Lucy C. A lump formed in his throat thinking of his sister-in-law. She and Sam were practically glued at the hip, and she'd never let that pack out of her sight, especially on a hike. With trembling hands, he unzipped it. Inside was a phone, destroyed with no SIM card. The shattered screen and busted casing suggested someone had smashed it. Was someone trying to destroy evidence? A twig snapped behind him. Tyler whirled around, heart hammering. No one there. The forest was dead quiet, yet the feeling of being watched lingered. He stashed the phone and a few personal items of Lucy's, like a small comb and lip balm, inside his jacket. The cold wind picked up again, making him realize if he was snooping in a place someone wanted to keep hidden, he could be in deep trouble. He hid the now empty backpack in a hollow tree trunk so cops could retrieve it later, then bolted for the main path, heart racing. That afternoon, he brought his find straight to the station. Some officers seemed surprised and even doubtful, but one admitted it looked like evidence of a violent situation. They also pointed out it wasn't definitive proof of a crime. Tyler had to fight back the anger rising inside him. It was obvious. Someone didn't want them to be found. He got the usual lukewarm response. Yes, they'd keep searching, but no, they wouldn't deviate from standard procedure. Furious, Tyler stormed out, vowing he wouldn't stop digging for the truth. His military training kicked in, that instinct never to retreat in the face of adversity. He had to restrain the rage swirling in his gut as he walked Sandy's streets. Everyday life went on around him. People chatting with neighbors, picking up groceries, joking on corners. Yet inside, he felt like his whole world was coming apart. "I'll go back to that bridge tomorrow with more daylight," he told himself. "I'll dig deeper. I know something's there." On the 6th day, news of the backpack's discovery leaked through town. A swarm of onlookers turned up around the Troutdale Bridge, claiming they wanted to help find any sign of the missing couple. Tyler appreciated the support, but worried they'd stomp over potential evidence or destroy footprints. Although seething at the authorities' slow pace, he chose to work with them. The police cordoned off part of the riverbank and ran more targeted searches, but found nothing else. At the station, an officer who sympathized with Tyler's determination advised him to see a local tech whiz named Ethan Myers, who might recover data from Lucy's busted phone. Maybe the internal memory was still salvageable. That afternoon, Tyler tracked down Ethan, who lived in a cramped workshop stuffed with old computer parts, wires, and dusty game consoles. The place smelled like hot metal and coffee. Rumor was Ethan was a genius, though a bit of a hermit. After hearing Tyler's story, Ethan offered his help for free. Using his recovery tools, he extracted some data fragments. Most were corrupted, but a handful of photos remained intact. The first restored image made Tyler's throat tighten. Lucy's face, smiling in bright sunlight, and Sam hugging her. It was taken in a forest much like Mount Hood, but dated well before their disappearance. The memory nearly broke Tyler on the spot. The computer whirred and Ethan exclaimed, "Looks like there's some data on her cloud backups. If we had Lucy's login, we could dig through her socials and apps." "Any idea about her password?" "No, but I know she liked using her birthday mixed with the date she and Sam first met. Let me give it a shot." After multiple tries, Tyler gained access to Lucy's account on a popular social network. He sifted through messages and posts with nothing jumping out. Then, a private chat with Sam from the day before they vanished showed up with a message. "I love you more than ever. I'm so nervous about that surprise you mentioned. How am I even supposed to respond if I can't find the words?" Reading. That, Tyler felt a pang in his chest. A surprise? What kind of surprise? Clicking around more, he noticed Lucy had saved photos of engagement rings in a favorites folder. That shook him. Apparently Sam planned to propose to Lucy at Eagle Creek Trail. Far from a sweet moment, it only raised the question, why would they vanish in the middle of such a beautiful plan? Day 7 dawned heavy with urgency. Tyler sat in Ethan's cluttered workshop, monitors and cables all around, while the faint hum of electronics filled the air. It was stuffy, and the smell of stale coffee and burnt circuitry was inescapable. Every second Ethan spent trying to hack Sam's account made Tyler's chest tighten. "Dude, can you speed that up?" Tyler asked, drumming his fingertips on the table. "I'm doing my best, man. These passwords ain't jokes," Ethan replied, eyes glued to the screen as his fingers flew over the keys. Finally, after multiple errors and sighs of frustration, Ethan blurted, "Got it." "We're in!" Tyler shot upright, leaning in so close he almost pressed his nose to the monitor. The screen's glow illuminated two very anxious faces as they combed through Sam's most recent messages. Everything looked ordinary until one message stood out in bold. Tyler felt a cold punch in his gut as he read it aloud. "We know what you're doing in those woods. Don't get involved or you'll get hurt." Tyler's heart slammed in his chest. That was a straight-up threat. Sam, an environmentally minded architect obsessed with protecting nature, often spoke up about suspicious or illegal stuff. What had he stumbled upon this time? And who was behind that threat? "Can you trace this or find out who sent it?" Tyler asked, trying to stay calm. "Whoever wrote this is slick," Ethan said, sounding frustrated. "They used a VPN and some encrypted network. Not an easy break. This is pro-level stuff, Tyler." "What the hell is going on here?" Tyler muttered, fists clenched, feeling hot anger rush through him. After a tense silence, Tyler locked eyes with Ethan. "Save all of this. I'm taking it straight to the station." Without waiting for an answer, he bolted out of the workshop. He could practically feel the clock ticking against him. The puzzle pieces were forming a pretty chilling picture, and that threat echoed in his head, Don't get involved. Once at the station, Tyler showed the screenshots to the chief of police. The man's expression shifted from neutral to deeply worried. Other officers crowded around, drawn by Tyler's urgent tone. This changes everything. Sam and Lucy didn't just vanish. Someone was watching them and threatening them. This backs up all my suspicions, Tyler said, struggling to keep a lid on his fury and despair. The chief pursed his lips, exhaling. Slowly. Tyler, this is alarming, but we need more solid proof before we can launch any major operation. We can't accuse anyone without firm evidence. More evidence? My brother's been missing for 7 days. You can't tell me it's just a coincidence. Something dangerous is going down out there and you know it, Tyler shouted, voice cracking with frustration. Everyone in the room fell silent. Eventually, the chief tried to calm him, resting a hand on Tyler's shoulder. We'll expand the search to specific sectors, including any suspicious zones in the reserve, places where illegal activity might be going on. But please, keep it together. Tyler nodded in silence, still burning inside. By the time he stepped out of the station, news had started circulating in Sandy. Small groups of townspeople were whispering to each other, visibly nervous. One man passing by mumbled something about odd helicopters and nighttime activity in remote areas of the woods. Desperate for answers, Tyler roamed the streets, asking anyone who might have seen or heard something. Some folks avoided him. Others dropped vague hints but refused to talk in detail. At last, an elderly woman who lived near Lake Sandy offered a valuable clue. "Son, I heard something strange a few nights back," she said in a hushed tone, glancing around like she was afraid. Someone might overhear. A truck speeding fast on the old road leading to the abandoned quarry. Nobody drives that stretch after midnight, let alone at that speed. Something's not right. Tyler took a mental note, his pulse racing. The tension was turning into a tangible threat. This info, though incomplete, was the first real lead in days. That night, back in his small rented room, he couldn't sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, he was hit by flashbacks of his military service, jumbled up with nightmares of Sam and Lucy being hunted by faceless figures. He woke up drenched in sweat, clutching the old military watch Sam had given him ages ago. A phrase from an old squad mate echoed in his head. When in doubt, read the terrain. Nature doesn't lie. Tyler made up his mind. Before sunrise, he'd be in the woods again, checking out that lonely road the old lady mentioned. Waiting around for the police was a waste of precious time. If Sam and Lucy were in trouble, every minute mattered. As he got dressed, he glanced down at his watch, noticing his pulse was still through the roof. Drawing a long, steady breath, he gazed at his reflection in the window's glass. Outside, the forest lay shrouded in darkness, hiding secrets in its endless shadows. Somewhere out there, the truth was waiting, and Tyler was determined to find it, no matter the cost. Day 8 dawned with a faint orange glow. Once again, Tyler ventured out on the Eagle Creek Trail, moving through areas of towering firs draped in thick moss. A fine dew fell from the branches, and a cool, earthy scent followed him. He stopped at every clearing, searching for footprints or any sign that Lucy and Sam had passed through. Only distant birdsong cut the silence. Sometimes the wind in the treetops sounded like a whisper urging him to keep going. A wave of doubt hit him. Was he just chasing ghosts? Could Lucy and Sam even be alive? He shook off that thought, clinging to the mental image of Sam showing Lucy an engagement ring. "Bro, if you're out there, hang on," he muttered under his breath. He spotted human footprints in a muddy patch, but they looked like they belonged to hunters or some other group wearing big boots. Nothing suggesting Sam or Lucy. Still, something felt off. Too many empty bottles and trash not typical of casual hikers. He pressed on until he found a patch of crushed undergrowth and multiple cigarette butts on the ground. It looked like a hidden campsite. Being a national park, hunting wasn't allowed. Were these poachers or drug traffickers? A slight tremor ran through his hands. Carefully, he pushed forward. The sun was still high enough not to worry him about nightfall, but he found no more clues. He roamed that area for 2 hours, hearing distant steps and snapping twigs, but never locating who or what was out there. Exhausted and uneasy, he made his way back to town. He felt he was on the brink of uncovering something truly dark, but couldn't quite pin it down. Day 9 and 10 blurred as the investigation seemed to stall. State authorities and local groups started pressuring the local police for results, and a couple of news crews arrived in Sandy to interview residents. Tyler refused any on-camera statements. He didn't want a media circus. He wanted answers. On the morning of Day 11, the chief of police held a press conference, announcing increased cooperation with the Forest Service and the DEA due to tips about illegal grow operations in the area. He also mentioned the possibility of bringing in specialized dogs to help. But Tyler knew that with each hour ticking by, Lucy and Sam's odds of survival plummeted. One small solace for Tyler was the warm-hearted local family giving him shelter in their cabin. At least he had a roof and a bit of privacy to work through his plans. He studied maps, scribbled contacts, planned routes for the next day. In those lonely hours, flashbacks of young Sam bounding into the house after school with that big grin made him weak at the knees. Sam was Tyler's only close family, and Lucy was like a sister he'd grown to respect. No way could they just vanish. Deep down, Tyler wondered if part of his stubbornness sprang from guilt. Ever since returning from combat tours, he'd avoided spending time with Sam and Lucy, insisting he was fine, but always keeping them at arm's length for fear of more loss. Now he was staring down the real possibility of losing his brother, and it tore him to pieces. Day 12 arrived in a dense fog. Around sunrise, a park ranger called Tyler. "You need to see this." Without giving details, the ranger asked him to come to the station. When Tyler got there, he found several officers crowding around a laptop displaying grainy black and white images. The ranger explained that wildlife biologists sometimes set up trail cameras to monitor deer, bears, and cougars. While scanning the footage, they'd spotted a human figure, a woman staggering through the undergrowth. "I'm pretty sure it's Lucy," the ranger said in a hushed voice. "Look how she's clutching something against her chest. Looks like a man's shirt." Tyler leaned in close. His heart almost stopped. That woman, pale, frail, and unsteady with tangled hair and sunken cheeks, was definitely Lucy. The timestamp showed it was just last night, a fleeting moment where she passed in front of the motion sensor, glancing around in pure terror, holding onto a torn piece of clothing. The police quickly organized a search based on the camera's coordinates. Tyler joined the team as they entered a barely used trail covered in moss and slippery rocks. Each step magnified the tension. Tyler's heart pounded with hope and dread. If Lucy was alive, what about Sam? The search party felt electric with urgency. People muttered, "We gotta move carefully," or "Stay alert for any sounds." The trees seemed to close in around them. After 4 hours of trekking and scanning every nook of the woods, someone spotted a figure slumped against a fallen log. It was Lucy, lost in despair. As she realized rescuers were near, Lucy started sobbing, too weak to get up. Tyler rushed over, feeling his chest tighten so hard he could barely breathe. "Lucy!" "It's me, Tyler. Hang in there. We're here. To help!" She gazed at him with glassy eyes, unable to speak at first. She trembled uncontrollably, clinging to a mud-stained, torn shirt that Tyler recognized as Sam's favorite. Paramedics swiftly covered her with blankets and checked her vitals. Though chilled to the bone, she was alive. They set up a makeshift camp right there in the woods. A blue tarp hung over metal poles, offering scant shelter from the cold drizzle that began at dusk. Emergency lamps cast weak beams onto everyone's tense faces as they circled around Lucy and the medics. Lucy lay on a portable stretcher, wrapped in thermal blankets but still shaking. Her skin was pale, covered with scratches and bruises. Her hair was matted with dirt, and her usually bright green eyes seemed distant, haunted by something unspeakable. Tyler stood a few feet away, watching anxiously as the paramedics measured Lucy's heart rate and temperature. The sound of his own heartbeat pounded in his ears, and he fought to keep from losing it. Finally, one of the medics gestured that it was okay for Tyler to approach. He crouched beside Lucy, gently taking her cold hand. "Lucy, it's me, Tyler. I need you to tell me what happened," he said softly, feeling dangerously close to breaking down. Lucy turned her head slowly toward him, tears welling as she recognized him. She shuddered again before managing a faint whisper. "Tyler, we were attacked." "Who attacked you?" he asked, leaning in closer, voice trembling. "Can you remember exactly what happened?" "I'm not sure." "They were armed. They saw us on the trail. I think we stumbled onto something illegal they were doing, something they didn't want witnesses to," Lucy said, voice shaky. Eyes filling with fear at the memory, Tyler felt ice flood his veins as images of violence flashed through his mind. "Sam tried to protect me," Lucy continued through sobs. "They ordered us to stop, but Sam grabbed my hand and we took off running. They fired into the air. They yelled for us not to run. I had no idea what was going on." Tears rolled down Lucy's cheeks. Each word cut Tyler's heart like a knife. "We ran without any real plan until Sam spotted this tiny cave hidden between rocks," she went on. "He pushed me inside and told me not to come out no matter what. He swore he'd be back, Tyler. He promised." Her voice broke, and Tyler clutched her hand, feeling himself unravel inside. Her breathing grew ragged, and a paramedic rushed over to give her a mild sedative. "She needs rest." "Let her recover," the medic told Tyler kindly. Tyler stepped back, turning away so no one would see the tears threatening to spill. Hannah's words tore him apart, but he still had more questions. After a few minutes, Lucy slowly opened her eyes again, calmer now thanks to the sedative. Tyler crouched down once more. "Lucy, I know this is hard, but did you see who these people were?" I don't really know." Lucy trembled under the blankets. "They were guarding some crops, tall, weird plants hidden in the trees. They yelled that we shouldn't meddle. Sam tried to reason with them. We had no money, no valuables, we just wanted out. But they wouldn't let us go." Tyler realized his worst hunch was correct. The forest hid something shady and dangerous. Sam had stumbled onto it, and it put them both in jeopardy. "Then what happened? Where's Sam?" Tyler asked softly, his throat tight. "He sprinted in the opposite direction to draw them away from me. I heard him yell, taunting them so they'd chase him. I was so terrified, but I remembered what he said. I stayed in that cave, alone, in total darkness for hours, days maybe. I lost track. I only heard distant footsteps, voices. I waited and waited, but Sam never came back." Lucy started sobbing again. Gazing down at the torn, muddy shirt, she added in a shaky whisper, "I finally came out when I couldn't stand it anymore. I yelled for him, but there was no answer. I found his shirt hanging on a bush. It was torn up, muddy, and had blood. I don't know where he is, Tyler. I don't know if he's still alive." Her final words hung in the air, heavy as lead. Tyler gripped the old watch on his wrist, noticing how hard it was to breathe. "Stay calm, Lucy," he said, forcing as much reassurance as he could muster into his voice. "We'll find him. I'm not giving up." The police had been listening closely, and the gravity of Lucy's account was undeniable. Immediately, they deployed search teams, calling for special units and federal support to investigate the area Lucy described, where she had spotted the hidden plants. Tyler stood under a dim emergency lamp, staring out into the blackness of the forest. He knew the next hours would be crucial. His younger brother was somewhere out there, alive or dead, and he wouldn't rest until he found the truth. The military watch Sam had gifted him ticked on, counting down a time that felt painfully short. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for whatever lay ahead, convinced that what he was facing was bigger and more terrifying than he'd ever imagined. In the days that followed, a flurry of raids rained down on the forest. With help from the DEA and specialized units, the police uncovered huge illegal grow sites guarded by armed men. Short skirmishes broke out, arrests were made, and it turned out a large criminal network operated across multiple regions. But despite the successful busts, there was still no sign of Sam. No body, no clues, nothing. The uncertainty hung, like a storm cloud. Lucy, recovering gradually in the hospital, offered more details. She explained how she and Sam had veered off the main trail to explore a quieter spot. That's how they stumbled onto the clearing with the suspicious crops, where armed men immediately confronted them. Sam realized how dangerous it was and risked his life so Lucy could hide. The last thing she heard was a distant gunshot and the echo of Sam calling her name. She wandered for days, injured and starving, before being found on day 13. News of the busted drug ring and Lucy's rescue spread fast. Media outlets hailed the bravery of the rescue teams and condemned the ruthless criminals. But a heartbreaking reality remained. Sam Carter was still missing. At the hospital, Tyler visited Lucy daily. She was still weak, clutching Sam's torn shirt to her chest. One day, she caught Tyler's eyes brimming with tears. "We'll find him," she said, softly, though she looked uncertain. "I can't lose hope." Tyler just nodded, unable to speak. Inside, he battled the grim truth. So much evidence pointed to a violent end, but he couldn't give up on Sam. He had to believe in a miracle, or at least in Sam's determination. That afternoon, the police chief pulled Tyler aside. "We've combed through every inch of that area. We haven't found a body or more evidence. We know Sam fought back. We arrested some guys, but they won't talk. Maybe Sam's being held somewhere else or—" The chief trailed off. Tyler refused to accept what wasn't said. "I'll keep looking on my own," he said. "I won't just walk away." The next few days were spent on smaller, more discreet searches. Tyler refused to stop. He got occasional help from volunteers who cheered him on. Autumn was in full swing. The forest leaves were turning gold, the temperature dropping even more. Lucy got discharged and stayed with friends, trying to cope with the trauma. Every night, Tyler laid out new search routes, studied every police report, and prayed quietly in his own way. By day 25, Lucy and Tyler were back at the police station to finalize some statements. The chief thanked them for their cooperation, but admitted they couldn't keep a massive search operation running forever without new leads. Tyler clenched his jaw. Lucy wiped away silent tears. After all they'd been through, it felt like a gaping void where hope used to live. They both wound up at the Eagle Creek trailhead again. Lucy, leaning on Tyler's arm, approached the old wooden sign and noticed someone had pinned a photo from Lucy and Sam's courthouse wedding there. With a black ribbon in the corner, the two of them stood quietly, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow over the path. Somewhere a bird was softly chirping. "I won't accept he's dead," Lucy whispered. "Sam would give his life for me, I know that. But what if they're keeping him somewhere remote?" Tyler wrapped an arm around her shoulders, eyes locked on the towering trees. "We'll keep looking. I swore an oath to myself, and I never break an oath." And so, the story remained unfinished. The police had caught the main criminals behind the drug operation. Justice had partly been served. Lucy survived thanks to her own will and Tyler's relentless pursuit. But Sam Carter's final fate was a painful question mark. Did he escape wounded, hiding somewhere in Mount Hood's wilderness? Was he moved out of state by the criminals, or did he fall prey to the forest, his remains hidden in some overlooked corner? Everyone in town had their own theory. Some believed Sam's grit would keep him alive if he'd managed to save Lucy. Others accepted that the mountain could swallow any trace. A handful suggested the entire thing might be some complicated payback scenario no one would fully understand. Lucy, her heart in pieces, went back to photography, capturing sunsets, foggy glades, and glimpses of wildlife as a way to banish the darkness she'd lived. Tyler stayed by her side, acting like a quiet guardian. Day after day, he hiked the remotest corners of Mount Hood, rummaging through online forums on missing persons, jotting down even the faintest lead in a worn journal. In those scribbled pages, he recorded his own transformation. Once a hardened, ex-military loner, he was learning to open up, to let himself feel. He realized that family is more than blood, it's a deep commitment. Each night before dozing off, he'd glance at the old military watch Sam had given him, whispering, "Hang on, little bro, I'm not quitting." Not long after, the DEA shut down several remaining illegal grows near the area. Rumors lingered about other, smaller outfits running in far corners of the forest. More motion-triggered cameras were installed to catch poachers or trespassers. Every alert had Tyler and a few dedicated officers rushing out in hopes of finding something new. But time passed, and no new clues about Sam ever turned up. Word of the tragedy touched a lot of people. Some offered Tyler or Lucy comfort and even praised Sam's heroism. Flowers and heartfelt notes got left at the Eagle Creek trailhead, turning it into a place of remembrance and sorrow for the missing hiker. For Lucy, it was bittersweet, seeing that trail turned into a makeshift memorial for the husband she loved. One autumn afternoon, with the leaves turning fiery shades of red and orange, Lucy joined Tyler at his cabin to review maps and intel. Inside the modest room, they spread out old charts on a small table. He showed her his notebook, dotted with circles marking where arrests had been made or shady sightings reported. Lucy examined it, frowning. "Notice here, near Troutdale Bridge. We still haven't checked the hillside behind it thoroughly," she pointed out. "Steep, muddy slopes with a landslide risk. I asked the chief if we could send a drone, but he said it's too risky right now. They'll wait until spring." They exchanged glances of exhaustion. Official channels were running dry. Lucy sighed as she held Sam's shirt, now washed, though still torn beyond repair. "I can't believe he'd leave me without saying goodbye. That's not who he is," she said, voice trembling. "I know," Tyler agreed quietly. "And that's why we're not done yet." Silence settled, broken only by the faint crackling from a makeshift fireplace. Outside, night was falling under a starry sky, utterly indifferent to the human drama unfolding below. Lucy left for Portland the next day to start therapy and begin piecing her life back together. Before she drove off, she and Tyler hugged at the cabin door. He promised to keep her posted on any development. She walked away slowly, that old determination in her eyes, hoping against hope that one day her husband might come back, or that she'd at least learn the truth. 2 months passed. Then one morning, Tyler got an anonymous email with GPS coordinates leading to a remote pocket of Mount Hood. The message was blunt. "If you're looking for Sam, go here and keep the cops out of it." A chill ran down Tyler's spine. It could be a setup. Still, that tiny spark of hope flared. He packed his hiking gear and enough supplies for a few days, leaving a note for the police chief saying he'd be doing a personal search. The spot was an overgrown trail, full of fallen trees blocking the path. He spent 3 hours alone without seeing another soul until he stumbled upon a rundown cabin. Searching every corner with caution, he half expected criminals. The walls were tagged with graffiti, and there were signs of old campfires. In one corner sat a broken cot strewn with filthy blankets. No sign of Sam, no trace of recent activity. Just empty bottles and the stale smell of decay. Disappointed, he walked around the area. A strong wind shook the treetops, the snap of branches, and a distant crow's caw filled the eerily silent woods. He felt like he was back on a dangerous mission overseas. But again, there was nothing, just more questions. The months rolled on, and Lucy and Sam's story eventually fell off the news. But not in Sandy, and certainly not in Tyler's heart. Lucy tried to rebuild her life in Portland, sending Tyler messages of hope. Meanwhile, he volunteered with the park rangers, helping protect the forests around Mount Hood, always on the lookout for any sign of Sam. Through it all, Tyler changed profoundly. He grew more humble and more open to the folks around him. Spending time with the mountains and the pines taught him a deep respect for nature's power and for humanity's fragility. Although he still clung to the idea Sam might be alive, he started acknowledging that if Sam truly was gone, his legacy was that act of love, saving Lucy while trying to improve the world in his own way. One day, Tyler came across a small commemorative plaque on the Eagle Creek Trail. A group of local hikers had installed it, dedicated to Lucy and Sam Carter. It read, "Love and hope outshine the forest's darkest shadows." Tyler brushed his fingers over it, feeling an ache in his chest. A handful of other hikers paused to read it, wondering who these young people were. Everyone there had a story of hardship or resilience. Tyler stayed quietly among them, a pensive look on his face. And that's how this story ends, with both heartbreak and resilience. As Lucy continued healing, she planned to open her photography studio, dedicating it to Sam's memory. Tyler, loyal as ever, volunteered for every expedition venturing into Mount Hood's most remote corners, clinging to the slim chance he'd unravel the riddle of his missing brother. Some people told Tyler to make his peace and let the case rest. But he would always answer with the iron resolve of a man who doesn't abandon those he loves. My brother would do the same for me. I'm not quitting until I find out what happened, or I draw my last breath. And so, with that determination, defying time and the forest's silence, the journey remains unfinished. The people in Sandy still ask, will Sam ever come back? Sometimes on stormy nights, folks swear they hear a distant whistle, just like the soft tune Sam used to hum under stress. Some figure it's only the wind rustling the branches. Others insist it's a sign that nothing is ever truly over. So maybe you're wondering too, what really happened to Sam Carter? Does love and self-sacrifice truly triumph over nature's brutality and human cruelty? Or does the forest guard secrets that may never see the light of day? Those footprints remain sunk in the soggy ground, waiting for a brave soul to follow them.